I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Ah!
Okay.
I just figured we needed a little bit more power for the podcast.
Okay. But before we get to that, we need to talk about Bruno one more time. Last week we said that we don't talk about Bruno reached number 2 on the U.S. Music charts. It has since reached number 1.
Yeah, we're definitely talking about Bruno.
Yep. Tying it with A Whole New World from Aladdin as the highest charting Disney song of all time. Which I've gone online and a lot of people are upset, mostly because they did not realize that Let It Go was never a number 1 song.
Well, I guess you should have bought more copies of that song if you wanted it to be number 1. I don't know. Why are you getting mad? It's like seems a ridiculous thing to get mad about.
People will get mad over the strangest things. But yeah, we don't talk about Bruno. This now a number 1 hit song. A lot of people have also said, it should be up for the Best Original Song award at the Oscars. And that's not going to happen because Disney never submitted that song to be in contention for the Oscars because the deadline was before the movie came out. So they had no idea that this song was going to be the hit it was.
Which makes me think that nobody at Disney ever listened to this song. Here's the thing I found out since we last recorded. Lin-Manuel Miranda had to have a NDA for toddlers talk with his children about this song. This song was so catchy that everyone in his family was singing this song. Apparently, like, his in-laws were staying with him at some point while he was writing this song. And his, like, father-in-law or something was singing this song.
Ooh.
And was hearing it, like, through the walls. It was like, that Bruno song you keep plunking away at on the piano. That is a catchy song. I keep singing that in my sleep. that is gonna stick in people's heads. And apparently it stuck in his children's head so much that they were singing it all around the house, and when they went back to school, he had to pull them aside and be like, you cannot sing that anywhere outside the house. And he had to explain it to them like, other people don't know this song yet, and it would be like rude, and you can't teach them this song. And I don't know exactly how he explained it to them, but he sort of had to kind of explain a non-disclosure agreement, but on a little kid level to them, because they would not stop singing it. It was that catchy. So the fact that nobody at Disney figured out that this was going to be the earth-crushing song it became made me think that nobody at Disney actually listened to any of these songs. Because the second I heard this song, I was like, oh, this is going to be the thing that parents are going to be tortured with for months. I mean, the first time you heard this song, you immediately knew, right?
Oh yeah, like, oh, this is catchy. This is,
This is the thing that's going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
So if nobody at Disney picked up on this, then fire all the people in that chain of command at Disney and replace them with anybody else, because I think everyone else who saw this movie immediately picked up on that. Because it was the same thing when I heard Let It Go. They put that up on YouTube before I got to see Frozen.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just one of those things that came across my feed. It was like, hey, Idina Menzel's got a song in the new Disney movie. And I was like, oh, I like Idina Menzel. I like Disney. I will give this a watch. And I heard that song and I immediately screamed out, like, come listen to this song. And I immediately was like, this is going to be the next big thing. You are going to be, this is going to torture every waking moment of your life for the next, and that was what it was.
And it
You
did.
know?
It was
And
everywhere.
it did. It was everywhere. But that's say I had one listen through of that song, and immediately I was grabbing people and going like, you've got to listen to this song, but also you're never going to not be able to listen to this song. This song is going to be everywhere within 48 hours.
This becomes Lin-Manuel Miranda's first ever #1 song.
Yeah, and deservingly so. I'm not that he did not write other songs that were absolutely amazing, but this is the one that will not leave me alone. So
Yeah, the earwormiest of earworms.
yeah. Well, although the last few days for me, it has been overtaken by Surface Pressure. Not gonna lie. So, you know, we might get another couple of weeks of Bruno, and then Surface Pressure might just slowly claw its way up that chart. I don't know.
We shall see. Let's move on to our main feature of the week, Monsters Incorporated. We haven't done a Pixar movie in a while, so it's good to go back to that. And as you said last week, this is a first-time watch for you.
Yeah. I knew the broad strokes of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I had kind of had everything spoiled for me over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like there were any major surprises plot-wise for me.
Mm-hmm.
But the little bits, you know, the character moments and the twists and turns and the individual jokes were the things that I didn't really know. But the broad strokes of the story I had already known.
I mean, considering we had this movie and we had Lilo and Stitch being those movies that you kind of missed watching the first time around, I'm wondering what else from the 2001 2002 era would be missing from your library there.
Yeah, I kind of missed a lot of the Disney Pixar stuff at that point in my life. You know, just real life reasons for that. So I kind of missed broad swaths of Disney Pixar at that point. But it's kind of good. I always should have gone back and watched it. I don't know why I never did, but it's good to have the excuse to go back and watch it now.
Yeah. Monsters Inc. was the third highest grossing film of 2001 and was nominated for the first ever Best Animated Feature Oscar. Lost to Shrek.
Fair on that one. Shrek was such a dominating thing in the culture. Still is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, even to this day.
Eventually, Disney will buy that too, and
Disney will rule the world one day.
It'll just be like, well, you know, now Shrekland at Disney.
they'll buy Universal too, and that'll be annexed into the Walt Disney World Resort.
Yeah.
So a little bit of note: this is the directorial debut of Pete Docter, who would go on to direct other uh, Pixar movies, Up, Inside Out, Soul, all great animated movies, and this was kind of like the first one he ever got to do.
I can kind of see where some of those later ones come from.
Mhm.
It's a good first outing for him.
Mhm.
So, definitely an interesting first take in the Pixar kind of realm for him.
So let's kind of just get into our featured players. Who's in this movie?
Well, we've got John Goodman leading us off as Sully.
Legendary actor John Goodman.
Yeah, who's had a great renaissance here lately. I mean, not that he ever really went away, but man, he is really just doing banger lately.
And a lot of Disney connections. Roseanne, The Connors, Emperor's New Groove.
Princess and the Frog was probably the last time we talked about him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was Big Daddy
Mm.
in that one, so probably last time we got to talk about him. And of course, he did take over the character of Baloo when they did Jungle Book 2. Lately, like you said, he's got the Connors going now, which is the continuation, offshoot, whatever you want to call it, of Roseanne. That is doing very well for ABC at the moment. And then over on HBO, he's got the Righteous Gemstones, which is an excellent, excellent series. And they just did the episode that just aired most recently as we're recording this was a episode that was completely set in the past of the show in the 80s, and they had to do that de-aging thing, that Guardians of the Galaxy really creepy de-aging thing,
Mm.
that whole like Captain Marvel, hey, it's the 80s and we need Samuel L. Jackson to look like his 80s Nick Fury.
Which is really weird because John Goodman has lost a lot of weight. Because in the 80s, John Goodman was a really big dude, and modern John Goodman, well, not skinny, he's definitely more slender than he was in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean they kept him the same size, but it was they kind of de-aged his face in that same manner. And that technology's getting creepy good. I mean, really creepy good. There were moments that you were forgetting, and you kind of, because we all know what John Goodman looked like in the 80s. It's like
Yeah.
we have that footage, and at the moment you're like, wow, it's John Goodman in the 80s, but he's like the size he is now. Like you just said, he was a larger size then, but it's like his face then on his body now, and it's a little bit trippy. So yeah. But man, it's just he is just killing it on both of those shows. Two extremely different characters, and he is just nailing them both. So yeah, loving it. And then of course, in this film, completely different vibe entirely, because he's just goofy and lovable, and really, really great. And then of course you got Billy Crystal playing Mike. His
Mike Wazowski.
yeah, Mike Wazowski is
Billy Crystal is Billy Crystal. He's a legend.
Yeah, well, I was trying to think of how to describe Mike. It's like partner on the scare floor or whatever.
Coach,
Yeah, I think they do call him a coach at some point. Like,
like each
yeah,
scarer has a
he
coach.
stays on the floor and takes care of the more technical end when Sully goes into the human world to scare kids. But yeah, they're roommates, but also they are coworkers, and yeah. But yeah, when did we last talk about Billy Crystal? Because
The Princess Bride, I believe.
yeah, Princess Bride, I think was the last time we talked about him. But yeah, legend. But then we got our kind of main villain of the piece, Randall, the little chameleon-y, lizardy monster. And then it's Steve Buscemi, because who doesn't love a Steve Buscemi, you know?
The original. Hey, it's that guy.
Yeah, the original, like, oh, it's that dude with the face and the eyes and the, yeah. I don't know. I mean, what do you say about Steve Buscemi, you know?
Yeah,
Uh, uh, Reservoir Dogs much? I'm trying to think of like when I first saw him. I can't remember if it was like in Coen Brothers or Tarantino. Probably, probably maybe Fargo for me, and then or maybe like Hudsucker Proxy. Like, probably one of those two was when I first saw him personally, and then maybe Reservoir Dogs right after that, shortly followed by Armageddon, maybe, I
I
guess.
I I first saw him in The Adventures of Pete and Pete.
Oh yeah, he did have that run in Pete and Pete. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Um, but I kind of popped in and out of Pete and Pete though, so I wasn't quite as big a Pete and Pete fan. So it probably was,
But Pete and Pete was the same year as Reservoir Dogs.
yeah, but I was such a like weirdo, sort of bizarre art film kid.
Mm.
Like that was me as a kid. So the fact that I probably would have been like, "Hello, child appropriate enough to watch Pete and Pete. When did you first run into Steve Buscemi? In a Coen Brothers film?" Like that would have been me as a child.
And
I'm not gonna lie.
and we were talking before we started recording. This is not the first time Steve Buscemi has done a movie with John Goodman.
Yeah, no, they both of them were Coen Brothers regulars. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they worked together in a couple of Coen Brothers films before this. I mean, they did uh, Big Lebowski together. Both of them had done Barton Fink as well. So it was that kind of thing.
Buscemi has definitely made animation a bit of a career because he's done the Final Fantasy movies, but most recently the Hotel Transylvania movies.
Yeah, well, as well as having that distinctive look, he does have a very distinctive voice.
Yeah.
So,
And of course, the man is a meme. How do you do, fellow kids?
yeah. And such a great sense of humor, because he is really good friends now with Pete Davidson,
Mm.
for a very kind of tragic and personal connection. Steve Buscemi was a firefighter before becoming an actor.
Oh yeah. I heard that.
Yeah, and
And he's still pretty much a volunteer firefighter to this day.
well, yeah, and when, well, right about the time of Monsters Inc. actually, but when 9/11 happened, he went and volunteered, um, because they lost a lot of men that day, and they needed people to help.
Hmm.
in the aftermath. And Steve Buscemi just walked down there and picked up some equipment and just started working. And Pete Davidson, for those that don't know, his father was a firefighter and was one of the men killed that day.
Davidson would eventually make a movie kind of about that.
Yeah, in which Steve Buscemi appears. And
King of Staten Island, yeah.
Yeah, King of Staten Island is the film. And it's quite a kind of special connection between them, and because of that, they've done a lot of kind of just weird comedy bits, the two of them, and they've become kind of good friends. But also, Steve Buscemi just has a really interesting sense of humor himself, and always has. And so the fact that he does all these kind of weird, animation of voiceovers and things like Pete and Pete and stuff like that, even back in the day, is kind of not surprising to me, because he's always had this kind of strange, off-kilter kind of sense of humor, which is probably why he ended up in like Coen Brothers films and stuff. So yeah, very, very interesting man, and very interesting career. But it plays a really good villain.
Yeah, he definitely has a villainous voice.
Yeah, really, really interesting character in this film. Speaking of our other villain, we've got absolute stone cold legend James Coburn. In one of his final roles, actually, this would be kind of at the end of his career. But James Coburn was mostly known for being in westerns, or a lot of kind of action, drama, thriller kind of films for the beginning of his career. Things like Magnificent Seven or The Great Escape. Later on, as a lot of these types of actors do, kind of, he had a bit more joking sense of his own his own persona. So he did things like, I think the last time we talked about him was his cameo in the Muppet Movie, where he was the El Sleazo cafe owner, where he kind of played into that sort of Western tough guy kind of persona there. But then you get stuff like this, where towards the end of his career, he's just having fun with it.
Yeah.
And he's playing the Waternoose, the owner of the company. And he's like the father figure to Sully, but he's also got that villainous edge to him. You want to wrap up a 40+ year career of playing these tough guys and everything, that's maybe how you do it. Moving on, we've got Mike's girlfriend, his love interest for the movie, Celia May, played by the absolutely adorable Jennifer Tilly. This is the one that shocked me because I had no idea she was in this movie.
And she just has such a distinct voice. And we were talking about this before we started recording, how that is essentially a character voice she does. It's the only character voice she does, but she does it in every role.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really her
default voice.
Her default voice. You can, yeah, you can hear her depending on what kind of interview she's giving. You can hear her normal speaking voice sometimes. Yeah, Jennifer Tilly is fascinating, because she does a lot of animation voiceover work. Um,
Family Guy, yeah.
yeah, Family Guy especially, but other things as well. And then of course she's got the Scream Queen background, especially the Chucky series.
Yeah.
The stuff like Bound, which that counts too. She's also just like a ferocious poker player.
I was gonna mention the poker player. She's a
Yeah,
pro. She's a
I
pro.
mean, yeah, absolutely. They've worked that into the Chucky series now. Her poker background. It's so fascinating to watch her. If you have a chance, if you don't follow her on Twitter, she's a great follow. I absolutely adore her. I could just gush about her for, you know, just like a whole episode. This is now a Jennifer Tilly episode. We're not going to talk about this movie anymore. This could be like when we talked about like Clark Gregg or something. It's just gonna be like, screw it, we're not talking about the movie anymore. This is just an actor I like. No, but yeah, it was so cool to hear her in this movie because I did not expect that at all. It was just one of those like, wait a minute, is that Jennifer Tilly? Yay! Moving on before I get caught too much in the weeds about Jennifer Tilly. Um, some of our returning cast that are in a lot of these Pixar films. Of course, we've got John Ratzenberger, who is in basically every Pixar film.
We talked about Alan Tudyk kind of becoming Disney Animation's good luck charm. Ratzenberger was always Pixar's good luck charm.
Yep. So he's in here as the Yeti that we meet. The one that kind of shocked me because I didn't expect him in here. We've got a wonderful appearance by Frank Oz.
Yeah. I mean, we just mentioned the Muppet movie, so yeah.
Yeah. He is the Fungus, the little assistant to Randall. We have another kind of regular for Pixar, Bonnie Hunt, as the trainer that you see at the beginning of the movie and a couple of times throughout. But she, I think we last talked about her when we did Zootopia. We talked about her in A Bug's Life as well. We get Jim Cummings back in a quick little, stop paying attention and you'll miss it role. And we've got Lorraine Newman from Saturday Night Live in here as the daycare worker that picks up Boo at one point.
Yep, with the other little monster kids, and she's never given a name in the movie, but apparently in a comic book, her name is Miss Nesbit.
I think you've had enough tea for today. Let's get you out of here, Buzz.
Don't you get it? You see the hat? I am Mrs. Nesbit.
Snap out of it, Buzz!
And then we've got Roz, who is played by Bob Peterson.
A regular Pixar animator.
Yeah. Who does occasional voices as well. So yeah.
One final one before we get going, and that is the voice of Boo herself, Mary Gibbs, who is the daughter of a Pixar animator, Rob Gibbs, which is how she got the role. She also, her other notable Pixar role is that she is the voice of Baby Riley in Inside Out. She did, while they were filming, making the movie, they had her draw some pictures. All of the little pictures you see Boo draw in the movie was actually drawn by Mary Gibbs. And a lot of them are signed by her with her name, Mary. And they have actually made this canonical. Boo's real name is Mary after Mary Gibbs.
There is one non-cast member person we kind of want to shout out, just for fun, because we always like mentioning our Magiswords people. One of the story artists on the movie is a guy named Ken Matroni, and he would later go on to work on Mighty Magiswords, our favorite non-Disney owned show yet. Uh, and he would later do work on Mighty Magiswords, including doing some voices, including the voice of Mr. Pachydermis. So yeah. Hi Ken, you'll never listen to this, but hi Ken. Yeah. So that was cool. It was cool to see his name. So.
Yeah. His early work.
Yeah.
So let's get into this movie. So we have a world. Well, as the Pixar formula goes, what if blank had feelings? What if the monster in your closet had feelings? So we have the world of Monstropolis, a world inhabited all of monsters, and their power source are the screams of children. So the monsters go into the human world through the closet door, scare the children, and collect the energy from the scream, and that powers their world. Every little bit of electricity, anything that runs on power is run by the power of screams.
Yeah, so all of their light bulbs and their car fuel and just basically everything.
Yeah, everything is run on scream power. And there seemingly is a energy crisis in the monster world because children are not getting as scared as they used to, or at least it's outgrowing the monster in the closet fairly quickly.
The children's time of innocence is shortening, and that means that their time when they get scared by the idea of a monster in the closet is growing shorter and shorter, and that means that they're able to harvest screams in a shorter time for each child, excuse me.
One note they have here is that one monster is saying she wasn't scared, she wasn't scared. She's 5! So it's like, so yeah, with children being scared of the monster in the closet less and less, there's less energy in the monster world. So people are trying to ration their energy sources, and we see a newspaper that says rolling blackouts are scheduled throughout the monster world to conserve energy. So
Mike and Sully have to walk to work instead of taking Mike's car.
Which he's not very happy to, because he just bought that thing.
Yeah, it's a sweet ride. I want to take my sweet ride into work,
There's a funny, it's not on Disney Plus, unfortunately, but there is a short called Mike's New Car, which kind of shows where it's Mike showing off all the stuff its car can do, and it just blows up in his face, and it's very hilarious. If you can find it, please watch it.
Yeah, but the other part of this equation is that the idea is that children and anything a child has touched in the human world is considered to be toxic and potentially deadly if it makes it back to the monster world. So any article of their clothing or a toy or anything, and especially a child themselves.
Yeah, physical touch is a big no-no in the monster world.
Yeah, so if they were to come back through the door, it's, and we see that with one monster getting a sock stuck to their fur, and then they have to be decontaminated.
2319.
Yeah.
That poor monster goes through hell this entire movie.
Yeah, it just keeps getting piled on. Poor thing.
But yeah, I mean, these monsters are taught essentially from childhood that children are dangerous. That if you touch a child, you will die. Things from the human world cannot touch a monster, and things from the human world cannot enter the monster world. because bad things will happen.
Yeah, the interesting thing is though is we do see that at least part of this does seem to be true in the fact of the scares part of it, the innocence window shrinking or whatever might actually be true.
I mean, I think that's a commentary on the world at the time, as you know. I mean, there's always going to be people saying, "Oh, kids playing video games are ruining their innocence," or they watch these movies and it's going to take away this. And someone working on this movie, I think that was a commentary on that.
Yeah, well, the reason I say that is because when Boo arrives, she is not at all scared by anything except Randall. Nothing else she comes into contact with in the entire monster world scares her in the slightest.
She looks at Sully and goes, "Kitty!" Which, since we have talked about this on the show before, is that is you. You will see this big, totally burly horned monster, and you will say, knowing you will say, "Puppy!"
Yeah, no, it's like, well, no, I'd probably just be like, "Fuzzy, I want to touch it." There recently was a thing where I can't remember which state it was, like Ohio or something. Their state wildlife thing sent out a whole thing about, like, if you see a wild bobcat, don't pet it on Twitter. And everyone sent back tweets like, no. If I see a bobcat, I'm totally petting that thing, dude. You are not stopping me. If I die, what a way to go.
Don't pet the murder kitty.
Yeah, and this is just my blanket statement to the internet. Yes, thank you for sending me this tweet thread. I have seen this tweet thread. Thank you, every single person on the internet. You have all sent me this tweet thread by now with the message, "Hey, look, Kiki, it's you." Because literally I woke up within hours of this tweet thread happening to every single person on the internet having sent me this tweet thread being like, "Hey, look, Kiki, this is you. This is you. You're going to pet a bobcat and die." Yes, Oklahoma. I know.
I believe it's Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was something. It was one of those states. But yeah, no, the point being, yes, I know I'm going to die petting something that I shouldn't pet. We've already established this. It is fact. Yeah, no, that was totally me. I totally related to Boo in that moment. I was like, yeah, no. I'd just open a random door one day, find an entire world of monsters, and be like, some of them are fuzzy. I'm gonna wander in and pet them. Also, that one over there has adorable snake hair. I want to braid it. Can I braid your snake hair? Please let me braid your snake hair, Jennifer Tilly monster. Also, did you know you sound like Jennifer Tilly? Can I go out on a date with you?
Honestly, I mean, I do love the little conversations that Mike and Celia have at the restaurant. That, yeah, when I first met you, your hair was shorter than, "Oh, do you think I should cut it?" And the snakes go, "Well, no, don't cut us, don't cut us."
I was immediately like, what kind of, like, I get that I was about to say, what kind of monster are you? And I was like, well, literally a monster, but I was like, it's horrific. Don't be cutting the snake hair. Also, I love when she gets mad, her hair rattles. Because she gets mad at Mike for ignoring her in the restaurant, and her hair starts rattling. Oh my god. It's just the funniest thing in the world to me. I laughed so hard at that scene. No, I love everything about that. The thing that sold me on this movie, though, was right at the beginning where, I was halfway there when he walks in and his girlfriend is a monster with snakes for hair and she is voiced by Jennifer Tilly. I was already like, okay, movie, You're almost there. I don't even care about anything else in this movie at this point. And then he was like, we're going out on a date. I got us reservations to your favorite restaurant, Harryhausen's. And I was like, and we're sold. I do not care about anything else in this movie. This movie is perfect. Your girlfriend is Jennifer Tilly's snake hair monster, and you're taking her to a restaurant called Harryhausen's. Yes, this is all my things. I love you, movie. This is my new favorite movie.
Do you want to explain the joke?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So Ray Harryhausen is like the best. He was a special effects artist. He is best known for being the stop motion master for films like the original Clash of the Titans. So I actually got to meet Ray Harryhausen in my life, and it is one of the best things ever. I got to sit and watch him talk about his work and all that kind of stuff. It's a great memory for me. I'm such an admirer of him, and the fact that one of his great creations was Medusa, the snake-haired monster woman in Clash of the Titans.
And here we are with a snake-haired monster woman.
And here he is taking a snake-haired monster woman to a restaurant named for Ray Harryhausen. I mean, it's just mwah, a million chef kisses. I love you. I love this movie. I love that joke. Perfect. Don't change a thing. So yeah, it was. And then it's a sushi restaurant, which is like one of my favorite things in the world. So please take me to the restaurant Harryhausen's, preferably with Jennifer Tilly.
Depending if someone gets to call you Schmootsy Poo or not.
No one ever gets to call me that. I will feed you to a snake, and then I will pet that snake and call him Schmootsy Poo. But I immediately was sold on the movie. At that point in the movie, I'm like, I don't care what else happens in this movie. This movie is perfect.
I want to talk a little bit about the scare floor, about how this works. Because there's like a whole video screen about, datelines and where they are, because it's clearly in the morning of the monster world where they're going to work and they're going through the doors. And obviously this has to be at night because these kids need to be asleep, and the monsters come in, they scare the kids in their sleep, and they get out. So there's datelines of what time is night in this time zone, and in this time zone, and in this time zone. So wouldn't there have to be scarers on the floor 24 hours a day? Shouldn't that always be open with like a day team and a night team coming in to go to children's houses at any time of the day? But we see that the scare floor does close at some point. So it would apply that there are some places of the world that don't get monsters? Or am I overthinking it?
Well, I also overthought this because, I mean, have you met me?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing to me about this was that I thought it was keyed to the individual doors. Their world has its own time flow.
Mm-hmm.
And inside that, they have times when they can trigger the actual doors. So the doors that are keyed to this particular part of the human world, we do that now,
But we do see later in the movie when they go through the random doors and they get stuck in Himalayas, that's still there's daylight.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah, and later when they're in like Paris or whatever, there's
Mm-hmm.
daylight. My theory was that it was their flow of time is one thing, and it may be a time dilation that is different than the human world.
Mm.
And so they have a certain period of time that they can access, each type of door.
Mm.
But I think that the real answer is it's just a movie. Relax.
Yeah, it's just a show. Better just relax.
But it's interesting to me in the sense of I think that the doors on the scare floor make more sense than we've discovered laughter is more powerful, so we break into little children's bedrooms at the end and do stand-up comedy for them. Because I gotta tell you, that would scare me more than the monster in my closet jumps out and goes, because at least that makes sense to me.
I mean, you're sitting there,
As a child, my brain could have comprehended, okay, it's nighttime, the monster in the closet is gonna do a jump scare, and then I'm gonna go back to sleep. That's just how it works at night. I get that. I understand that. That is a concept. My brain does not comprehend, okay, so I'm going to go to sleep for a little bit, and then I'm going to get woken up so Billy Crystal can come out and test his Type 5, and then I'm going to try to go back to sleep after that. No, that's not a thing that happens. It's like,
but at least at the end, they're going to kids that are not scared of monsters. Like the kid at the end is just
now I'm scared of stand-up comedy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm scared of the corner of my room turning into the Laugh Factory for a couple of minutes every night. And that is a way bigger existential crisis than having to turn on the light in my closet for a few minutes every night before I go to bed. Yeah. I'm just scared now that some guy's gonna pop out of my closet and be like, "Hey, how you doing tonight? So, where are you from? Hey, how about that airline food?" Right? Like that's now my greatest fear in life.
And it'll still give them energy. Energy is energy.
Yeah, but try to explain that to a therapist.
I had the dream again.
Yeah.
Where Billy Crystal is a one-eyed monster doing stand-up. Yes.
Yeah. What do you think it means, Doc? Well, I think you have father issues.
Why does the monster sound like Billy Crystal? I don't know. There was another guy that sounded like John Goodman for some reason.
The worst ones of all are the nights when Steve Buscemi comes. I live in terror of those nights. I just, for some reason, they take this movie from okay, this is kind of a cute concept to now I'm living in some sort of really weird existential terror. Is some sort of surrealist nightmare I cannot escape.
Where do we go from here?
I don't know.
Let's kind of talk about the plan, I guess. Because early in the movie, we see Randall's going after Boo. Throughout the first part of the movie, there is this world screamer record to scare the most children scared by a single scare. And the current record holder is Sully. Randall, throughout the first part of the movie, he's saying, give me another door, because he's trying to scare as many kids as possible to beat Sully's record. And he does for 5 seconds before Sully comes out of a slumber party.
Yeah.
But
that was a lucky draw, though.
But then we meet Boo, and their original, Sully and Mike's original idea, or their original thought is, he's cheating. He's taking this child from the human world to scare her to get the world's scare record that way. But then we find out, oh, this plan is much worse and goes much higher.
This is both a very ingenious and extremely dark plan. Like, I'm kind of impressed that Pixar was allowed to do this.
Maybe because we never see the Scream Extractor actually used on a person. We just see it on Frank Oz Monster.
Yeah. But if you think about this for more than 0.5 of a second, this is truly horrific.
So their plan is to kidnap children from the human world, bring them into the Monsters, Inc. factory, strap them in, and have this device that will literally suck the screams out of their body. And probably everything else. Because when we see the machine used on the Frank Oz monster, he literally loses all of the color of his body. Now, considering Scream is their power source, is it also their life force?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is for monsters.
Maybe.
But, because screams are basically energy in that world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're basically electricity, and you can say that a human body runs on electricity to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
So if the monster world runs on screams, maybe monster bodies run on screams. You know, let's not mince words here. This is basically a torture machine.
It is.
You know,
and they're doing this to children.
To very young children.
Boo is at least 2 years old in this movie, and at least it's there's some supplemental material that lists her as 2 years old. So this is a toddler. This is still a baby.
Yeah, she doesn't have full language acquisition in this film.
Yeah.
So, and we see, you know, Waternoose later saying, you know, he will kidnap thousands and thousands of children just to keep this world running, so it's fine. So, this is an absolutely horrific plan. We almost see it enacted on Boo.
If it wasn't for Sully with the run-in for the save.
Yeah, and we see how terrified she is in that moment as it's coming towards her, which is a really impactful moment.
I'm starting to wonder how much therapy Boo would need later in life with all of this.
Yeah, hopefully she thinks it's just a dream or something. The thing is that it's already, you know, this world is already kind of built on an awful premise, an awful exploitative premise, which Sully realizes over the course of the movie. You know, when he catches that footage of himself in mid-scream, you know, mid-growl, and he sees what Boo would see, you know?
Yeah, and this seems to be the first time he's ever seen it from the child's point of view. And he's been doing this for however long.
And it is interesting to see that he does realize the exploitation and trauma from the other end. Like, you can say, like, well, the kids grow out of it and whatever, but we all are sort of built on the after effects of whatever weird childhood phobias we all had,
Mm-hmm.
We've all got that 1 or 2 or 12, little phobias we had as a kid that we never quite shook. Whether or not they're legitimate fears or not, Sully has that moment of realization, like, oh, we've been preying on that to run our world, to convenience our world. There's nothing that says their world necessarily needs this form of power.
And we find out later that they kind of don't.
They kind of don't, but there might have been some native form of power that we don't know about. We don't know everything about this world. We just know that this one company has a monopoly and has told everybody that this is the form of power. It is fascinating to see him have that kind of moment of clarity. And to decide to do something about it. It is in my power to do something about it, and so I will. Which is the more important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not just that you suddenly realize what's going on, but you realize what's going on, and now you will do something about it.
Yeah. Knowing full well that it could doom the company, knowing full well that the energy crisis is not going to get better, but it's still the right thing to do.
Yeah, and it's going to cost him a lot. I mean, he is the star of this company.
Yep. He is
the man who runs the company is his father figure, basically.
He's been the employee of the month forever.
Yeah.
So
it's his roommate. It's going to cost him his job as well.
Almost cost him his life. I mean, like, he even mentions it. Hey, I will never see the woman I love ever again because of you.
He doesn't realize at the moment it will get them exiled to the human world, but it does. I mean, let's talk about that moment where they get exiled to the human world, because that's kind of an interesting moment.
And they do mention other monsters that have been exiled to the human world. Obviously, we have the Yeti. They mention Bigfoot. So it's assumed that all of the monsters that we see in our world are banished monsters from the monster world.
Yeah, so all cryptozoology is just monsters from their world that have been banished.
So Nessie and the Chupacabra and
Mothman,
Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
All of them were monsters that for one reason or another were banished to the human world. And I wish we could have seen that movie. I will talk more about that in a minute once we get through this, but that's a movie I want to see. I want to see a Monsters, Inc. movie about the monsters that were banished into the human world and what they're doing.
Yeah, that would be cool. I like that they based this on the Rankin Bass Abominable Snowman. So, we get our John Ratzenberger, as we said.
With yellow snow.
Yeah, it's just lemon.
That's the only way they can get away with a yellow snow joke in a Disney movie.
Yeah. But I like how he's got like all the lingonberry jam crates. But I do like how friendly he is. Like, oh, just more monsters, yay. Mike is rightfully upset, but at the same time, Sully is trying to do the right thing here. And maybe you can fault his method of trying to do the right thing.
It's from Mike's point of view, it's like, yeah, Sully's doing the right thing, but he's not really thinking of anyone else but Boo. But he's not thinking of what this affects. Like, he doesn't think of what affects Mike. Again, Mike is now banished to the human world. He will never see his family, and he will never see the woman he loves ever again because of Sully's actions. The power, the energy source of the monster world was in danger because of Sully's actions. The way of life of the monster world is in jeopardy because of Sully's actions. Their friendship is now in jeopardy because of Sully's actions. Because he said, it's like, you're not thinking of anyone but yourself. Now, granted, this is Mike talking from a bit of rage, a bit of anger, but he makes a point.
I think Mike's biggest point is that Sully doesn't listen to him.
Yeah.
And he is right in that Sully hasn't been listening to him for at least part of the movie. I think at the beginning of the movie,
since Boo gets involved mostly.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the movie, Sully was a bit more attentive. Much more than Mike was. The tables kind of turn. Mike ignores Sully for the beginning part of the movie, and then once Boo enters the picture, it does kind of shift. But there does need to be more communication between the two of them. The interesting thing to me is that Sully realizes there's a way to return, and he immediately is like, okay, I've realized we've got a way back in. Let's go take it. And Mike's like, nope, stay in here. Why, dude?
Well, he mentions like that. There's a blizzard out there. It is a 3-day excursion to the village. It is a blizzard, and if they go out there, they will freeze to death. At least Sully has fur. Mike does not.
Okay, yeah, but at least try to get back to your own world, and if things go south, then use your buddy as a tauntaun.
I don't want to see Mike kind of slice. I don't want to see that happen.
Then you and I are very different people.
I think the shocking moment of that is that Mike says, hey, if you're willing to throw everything away for this kid, go ahead. I'm not going to go with you. And then Sully leaves. Like, Mike is there all alone. Because Mike did exactly what Sully said. Hey, if you think this girl is more important than anything else, go ahead. And that's what Sully does.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it though, but like, I'm not super keen on children, but it's a child, Mike. Come on. Yeah, it is a child in danger.
This child is about to have the literal life sucked out of her body by your boss.
Yeah, I mean, what is wrong with you, Mike?
But he does come back eventually.
Yeah, but
how he got there, we don't know. But he got there.
I mean, presumably the same way, but just slightly later.
Mm-hmm. And of course, leads to this great scene of them riding the doors throughout all of Monsters Inc. It's a beautifully animated scene, and yeah, like I said, they go through different parts of the world where it is daytime, is not nighttime, and yeah.
This was at the time like that door, that door room with all the doors on conveyor belts, I think was at the time the most complex set piece that Pixar had ever put together.
They also had to make a completely new animation program for the fur on Sully.
Yeah. And I gotta tell you, it holds up.
Yeah.
It's not quite as good as what they can do today, of course, because they've been upping the technology over the 20 years since this movie came out. But it still looks pretty good for 20-year-old computer animation, which is impressive.
Yeah.
Some of the other bits of the animation do not look that good, but the fur looks really good.
And, let's get back to what you said, to that scene at the end there where Waternoose admits he will kidnap 1,000 children just to keep the world going. And apparently the CDA, this government facility that looks like freaking AIM from Marvel, have apparently been having an investigation into Monsters, Inc. for a while. Apparently, this is a plan that's been going on for quite a while. 2.5 years, apparently. As
and Ross has been undercover, yeah.
Ross has been working with Monsters, Inc. for 2.5 years, working undercover, trying to figure out what this plan is. And to find out that it goes all the way to the top. And so they arrest Waternoose after the minute, and then Waternoose straight up says, the energy crisis will continue. We're going to lose out, and we're going to lose everything. The world, the monster world is going to be in danger because of you, because you decided to save this one child. And from his perspective, it's fine. He is right in that perspective. From his perspective, the only thing that can power the monster world is the screams of children. With that gone, what do you do? And even Mike mentions it. Hey, we saved Boo, we uncovered the conspiracy, but now the company's going to get shut down. All of these people are going to be out of work. We're going to have no power. But we had a few laughs, didn't we, buddy? Which is enough, which gives Sully the idea. Now Sully is the guy in charge of Monsters, Inc. and switches it from using scream power to using laugh power, as we find out throughout the course of the film, as Boo's laughter, while her scream can power one room, her laugh powers the entire apartment complex that Sully and Mike live in, and a few of the apartment complexes down the street.
Yeah.
Her laugh is enough to power every door in the Monsters, Inc. vault. So that's, and then we, of course, we get the Billy Crystal in your room doing stand up.
The scariest scene in the film. I do want to mention, of course, the bit where we find out what happens to poor Randall. He deserves it, of course, but where they shove him through the door into the trailer, and they're like, "Look, a gator got in." They just start beating the crap out of him. The most interesting thing is that apparently that trailer had a closet.
Apparently, whoever works at that trailer works at Pizza Planet, because that's where we get our Pizza Planet truck.
Yeah. Of course, Boo's room contains the rest of the Pixar
Pixar characters.
Yeah.
She has a forgot her name. Jessie doll.
The ball with the star on it. Nemo.
This is actually the first appearance of Nemo, because Finding Nemo wouldn't come out until the next year.
Yeah, and we get the famous Toy Story wallpaper earlier in the scene where Randall is practicing his chameleon changing ability. and they're pulling down the various backgrounds on the scare floor. And one of the backgrounds they pull down is the wallpaper with the clouds. So we get those little moments like that.
I do want to talk about a little bit of that scene where they say goodbye to Boo, and Boo comes in here and she's happy to see her room. She pulls Sully in there and she starts giving him all of her toys, as little kids tend to do.
Yeah, look at the things I have.
And we have this big sad goodbye moment where she goes, Kitty's got to go away now. I mean, it's a nice little scene. And of course we get the meme of Boo hugging Sully that everybody uses.
Yeah.
It's a sad scene, but it's also a beautiful scene. And we see that Mike has painstakingly taken the broken door of Boo and piece by piece, splinter by splinter, has put the entire door back together. That must have taken a long time and a lot of patience to do.
How did he get all of that debris?
Yeah. But yeah, and we get that scene at the end where he goes to the Boo store and she goes, Kitty. It's a beautiful ending.
Yeah.
And that's Monsters Incorporated. So we did eventually get a prequel. There was Monsters University, which came out 12 years after this movie did. But there was another planned sequel that kind of never happened. So when there was a point where Pixar was going to separate itself from Disney, this was the one of the main triggers that got people to push Michael Eisner out, bring Bob Iger in, and since Disney owned the characters, Eisner decided, well, we don't need Pixar. We'll just create our own animation studio that is specifically tailored to make sequels to these Pixar movies that we own. And that became Circle 7 Studios. And Circle 7 Studios was in charge to do 3 sequels off the bat. Toy Story 3, Finding Nemo 2, and Monsters Incorporated Lost in Scaradise. There's a whole video on it if you want to go and find it, of people who worked with Circle 7 at the time who just told their story, told what their original idea of what this movie was going to be. The short version is that Boo and Sully were going to go back into the human world. It was Boo's birthday. They wanted to visit her for her birthday. She is not there. And they go all over the country trying to find where Boo is. Along the way, meeting up with other monsters that have been banished from the monster world by Water Noose. Which I just said, I want to see that movie. And we're never going to see that movie because then Iger comes in, he buys Pixar, Circle 7 Studios is shut down, and none of those movies happen. Oh, there's a Toy Story 3, but not the Toy Story 3 that Circle 7 was working on. There's a Monsters, Inc. sequel, but not the one that Circle 7 was working on. We got a second Finding Nemo movie, but not the one that Circle 7 was working on.
Yeah, it does sound like it would have been a great idea. It is kind of sad when things like that fall through.
Yeah. But so that's my little soapbox moment of the episode there. So Kiki, since this was the first time that you have seen this movie, what did you think?
I really liked it. It will not go down as my favorite Pixar movie. I mean, it just already, but it won't go down as my least favorite either.
You already know what that one is.
Yeah. I think we do. But I was surprised that I liked it more than I thought I would. I think I kind of thought, oh, I already know everything about this movie, and then there were a lot of things in it that I was like, oh, it, yay. I think where it suffers was more in the fact that it was still 2001 and there were some things they were still trying to get right about the CGI. It still has some of that stuff that was a problem with the early Toy Story,
Yeah, Pixar are trying to make humans look human. They still had that plasticky look, which is kind of why they focused more on non-human characters for their first few films. Toys, bugs, monsters, fish.
It was very easy to see why the monsters were terrified of little children, because when the little children come on screen, you're like, God, that really does look awful. It's a terrifying creature. Yeah, because all the monsters look adorable, and then whenever you see a child on screen, you're like, oh, that's horrifying. No, do not want. There's one Randy Newman song.
If I Didn't Have You, which was the intro music we heard. They slow it down and they put some lyrics over it, and we get John Goodman and Billy Crystal singing this friendship song, If I Didn't Have You.
Yeah, so it was. I'm glad it was the one song. I'm glad it was the lead singing it. I'm glad it was over the end credits, so that was a bonus. Didn't interrupt the flow of the movie, so definitely bonus points for that. I don't know. I think there were moments when the story felt like it lagged a little bit.
I mean, this is a 90-minute movie, and yeah, it does feel like a few minutes if it gets dragged.
There were some times when I thought it could be punched up a little bit, maybe like, we could have put some jokes in there, had a bit of, slapstick, or, a chase scene or something, just something to pep it up a little bit. But overall, it was a really good effort. And again, this was still kind of early in the Pixar formula. And they were working out a lot of some of the kinks in the formula, I think. But I enjoyed this one a lot more than I thought I would. I think I always thought, like, there had to have been a reason I skipped this one. But probably not. I think it was just, like, real life reasons at the time, and then I just laziness never got around to it. Really liked Jennifer Tilly, though.
One thing about this movie that I'm sad is not, and I mentioned the short, but there's also one other thing in this movie. This movie doesn't have the outtakes. The version on Disney Plus does not have the outtakes. Now, we've mentioned how, Bug's Life, in the credits, there are outtakes. In Toy Story 2, there are the outtakes. There is an outtake reel for Monsters, Inc., but it's not on Disney Plus. And that's not on the extras, and it's not during the credits. But it is very funny. It's very good. But it also includes the complete musical that Sully and Mike were talking about in the movie.
Put that thing back where it came from. Oh, so help me, so help me, so help me get by. Put that thing back where it came from. Oh, so help me, so help me.
Put that thing where it came from, or so help me.
Oh, I do. I want to see that. I feel cheated now.
It's probably out there in the YouTube verse or whatever. But
yeah,
yes.
I'm sure I can find it now that I know it exists. But Disney Plus, what are you doing to me? Put that up on the site. Ugh.
At least put it in the extras tab so you can see the
Yeah.
outtakes. So let's ask the question here. Does Monsters Incorporated have the magic? Kiki.
Yes.
I am also going to say yes. The fur animation still holds up. I still think the story holds up. Still very good. It's a classic to me. So yes, magic.
Yeah, one I will watch again. Now that I've
Mhm.
seen it, it will definitely be one that I will watch again in future.
Kiki, next week is Valentine's Day.
Well, it's bound to happen every year, isn't it?
Yeah. So let's do a love story next week for Valentine's Day. One of the classic Disney love stories, Lady and the Tramp.
We're going old school Disney.
Yes, and it'll be a bella notte. So yes, come back next week for Lady and the Tramp, and we will talk to you all then. Bye.
Bye. Don't let the magic stop here.
Join our conversation online on Facebook at Rewatching the Magic.
Twitter at Rewatch the Magic.
And of course, new episodes every week at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com.
Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.